Hey, singers, another time for another singer spotlight. And this week, I'm bringing in a really good friend of mine, Ramone Talarico. This guy's an amazing singer. We've known each other for quite a while. We've done a couple lessons together, and he's read Raise Your Voice, and he does a lot of vocal projects on his own. Just a phenomenal singer. So, Ramone, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself so the fans watching know who you are as a singer?
Hi. Well, let's see. I began singing around 15, and I got really serious about 17. And I had struggled with my voice for a while. I always loved all the various styles. I grew up in all the '80s bands, from the pop bands, the Duran Duran, the Pat Benatar, all the '80s hair bands. And I like any singer who was self-taught, developed vocal issues. I was very stubborn though as a singer, and I had gone through a lot of little garage bands and whatnot. But it wasn't until I was around 27 that I started getting extremely serious about my failing voice and decided to take lessons and things like that. That's because all my influences, everything that I was into, was really strenuous work, and I needed to really get a grasp on what I was doing technically. So that was when I really began as a singer. I'd say it was when I was 27 is when I became alive. That's when I opened up and realized I had a realization. A different kind of mindset was needed.
And how are you? How are you now?
I'm 37 now.
37. So you've been studying for 10 years. What was it like? Okay, so you're like, okay, I'm running into trouble. I got to seek out a vocal coach. What did you do? Who did you go to?
Well, when I was 27, I had some private lessons in New York with Tony Harnell. He's one of my favorite singers, and you know, uh, I love singing along with. I was introduced with his work in around 1999 with Westworld, and I was like, wow, who is this guy? This is incredible. So he became, I was singing along with him, and I was like, wow, this is definitely up a notch from what I'm even used to. I realized that as I sang and sang for hours and hours a week, there was something going on. My voice was being a little more stubborn than it had been before. So uh, taking lessons with him helped open up some new doorways and gave me a greater understanding. But due to the extreme travel time, no sleep, no hydration, train ride, 3 hours up to see him, it was very traumatic to the body, and I didn't really do too many lessons with him. But he did point me down a new direction, and it really helped.
And 3 hours. So where are you from?
I'm in New Jersey, Franklinville, so it's really up to New York where it was a long commute. And it's one of those stressful things like the night before a flight or something, you don't get any sleep. So I was coasting on no sleep. The sessions were very, very hard to pull off for me.
So okay, you did a couple sessions with him. You kept singing, so you were into the '80s bands and stuff. I
Sure.
guess around 27. So okay, it's too long to drive. Then where did you go? Did you just quit studying voice? Did you?
No,
Did you?
you know what? I hung on to what he taught me for a few months, and it worked. It was getting there. But unfortunately, the sessions were cut prematurely short. So I remember. I think you did an interview with him on your website, I believe. And that's what I saw the interview, and I wondered who you were. And then I started seeing all these video montages, you breaking the wine glass and the MythBusters. I said, well, and I think I remember I sent you an email. I asked you, I was like, is this really possible? And then you replied back, you explained, yes, it is. And I think we took it from there. I started having lessons with you. And I believe the first thing I did, though, before having a lesson was I bought Raise Your Voice, second edition, and I pretty much read it, formulated all the questions that I had gotten from reading it, anything that I wanted to elaborate a little bit further. And then I had my first session with you, and we went over a lot of things. And I got to say, honestly, from there, I dramatically improved. I remember I was started releasing videos, and I actually started getting offers from people from all over the world. I started getting people like, hey, would you like to do this? Would you like to do that? So it was a dramatic improvement that I had done when I started applying those principles.
So I mean, I think Tony's an amazing teacher. I remember that interview because I can't even remember how I got him to do it. But the one thing, because Tony and I are really good friends now, from that interview, and I think what struck a chord with him is I said, "Well, can you explain, how you're a higher register, your full voice?" He's like, "Wait a minute, Did you just call him Upper Notes full voice? It's like, yeah. He said, oh my God, thank you. Because all I hear in these interviews is he's got such an amazing falsetto. And it's not falsetto, it's pure full voice. And hardly nobody, the critics don't understand that. They can't wrap their mind around it. So we came, and I've seen Tony teach. I've been stay with him in New York. So I know he's a phenomenal teacher, maybe more of a style coach. So what was it? Was it just because you were able to read the book and really pay attention again? Or was he like, oh, wait a minute, Tony went over that with me, but now it's being shoved in my face with the book, and Jamie, it's making more sense.
Well, you know what? I think as I said this before, I think in an endorsement I did of your book, you really have it laid out very well in your book. Okay, it's much more simple. What a lot of other vocal coaches are making extremely technical. They're coining all these complicated terms, and you have a much more easier to follow way in the book. So that kind of clicked with me immediately and made a permanent impression. Once I read that, I didn't unlearn anything. I just carried in what Tony had shown me into the new lessons and into the new mindset. And it just was a continuation, and I just started taking it from there.
That's cool. Yeah, and I think that's another reason Tony and I clicked. I'm just not a coach who's into having 452 terms to explain the vocal break. I don't think it's necessary. And he's very much like that. So, okay, you started doing some lessons with me and studying to raise your voice. You started to notice differences. You said all these offers started coming in.
Yeah.
So I want to know about them. I mean, tell me about them if you're currently in a band or what happened or what you've recorded on.
I'm in two international bands now, Liturgy of War and a new, fairly new project called The Frame. And we're doing a lot of progressive melodic rock / softer style metal and melodic metal. I should make that clear. And that came from the videos that I was releasing. I started getting noticed, and I had a lot of offers from people overseas. And the first one I got was Claudio Minotti of Liturgy of War. He said, hey, I love your voice. I'd like to work with you. I'm closing up a project now. So a few months later, boom, before I knew it, I was the new singer of Liturgy of War. A couple years later, Corey Fujimori of The Frame also found me, and I made some time for that project. Before I know it, I'm in two international projects now. And I released a CD with the second CD with Liturgy of War, Dreamphoria. And we just released our first EP a few days ago, The Infinite Fire with The Frame. And I'm really proud of all this work. This is the best stuff I've ever done in my life. I always thought, I had this huge misconception that when you're younger, you have this advantage singing, that you have so much more stamina. I'm singing better now at 37 than I ever could have achieved at 27. I'm kicking out songs like Mad. I'm inspired. I don't even know where I'm going now. I have so many other directions, musically. I can do all these different styles. I have flexible musicians I'm working with. So it's just a great ride right now.
Yeah, it's so funny. Of course, we know, and I've repeated this a million times, as he has, working with James LaBrie from Dream Theater. He says the same thing. James is in his 50s now, and he says his voice feels better now than it did 20-something years ago. So it's not so much about the age. It's about what you put your voice through and taking care of it and making sure you stay on top of your game. With these two bands, are you part of the writing team, or do they write it with the lyrics, or do you write lyrics, or how does it work?
Occasionally I will, here's the thing. This is the weirdest thing. And I've been waiting my whole life for this. The music that they will just kick out and send me is absolutely perfect. It's in harmony with my own natural musical vibe. So I'm like, wow, the timing is right. Everything, the bridge is where I want it. The choruses are just as long as I want it. Everything is perfect. It's just weird how it works out that way. Maybe it's a progressive melodic rock thing where all of us kind of think the same. I don't know. But I get in there, I create the harmonies, I write all the lyrics, and then I spend my time doing the vocal aspect of it. Yeah, sure, I have a little, obviously a little bit of control. I can say, hey, could you change that just a little bit? But you know what? I've never, ever had to do that. I've never, needed to. Everything flowed perfectly.
So how do you record, Ramone? Do you record at home? Do you go to a studio?
I have my home studio. It's very humble, but it has everything I need to do the desired level of quality that I'm going for. I use a Mike Jolie mic and a pretty good preamp, And that's pretty much it.
What name? Let's go over your mic and your preamp in case somebody wants to purchase this. Because I do the same thing. I use a Studio Projects mic and a preamp, and both together cost me less than $600.
Oh, easily, sure. My Mitrally mic, I think, was around $450. It's the Hulk. It's an MXL 990K. You basically just take your MXL 990, send it to him. He guts the insides, and he builds his microphone inside the shell. And I use an ART. I think it's a $40 preamp, and it's a tube preamp. And I love the sound. It's a nice, rich tonal quality for the price. I couldn't beat it. I had experimented with a few other preamps and wasn't totally impressed. But, this one does what I need to do.
Well, it's so funny. People, I mean, I hate, just be honest, art, they kind of make fun of art like it's the McDonald's preamps, but they got some pretty good stuff. Their channel strips are really nice. And people, for some reason, think that to record you have to have a $2,000 preamp and a $6,000 mic, and it's so untrue. If you get the levels right. Now, when you first started recording, was it tough for you to actually figure out especially when you're using a tube preamp, you have a chance to clip if you're not careful.
I had to tinker a bit. I definitely had to tinker with a bit for I don't know, maybe about an hour or so to get all the levels just right. Every now and then I think I had it just right, and then surprised me, a little bit of a shock here and there. But once I got the levels just right, where I wasn't clipping out on the gain and all that, everything went fine with it. What's that?
I was gonna say I just went through the same thing. My engineer's like, "Oh, beautiful," but you're clipping. I'm like, "Oh my God, I didn't pay attention. I just didn't look at the wave file." And I was like, "Oh, I padded it by 10 decibels. Like I'll be fine." But so didn't mean to interrupt you though. So it took you about an hour to figure it out, and now everything's pretty smooth.
Yes, everything is good now. I really like it. I got to say, for the price, it's not bad. I've been in the studio. I've used much nicer preamps, and I'm sure there is a level of performance that is better. But I'm going to be honest. My ears, they're just not hearing enough difference to really justify that investment right now.
You just sent me a song the other day I listened to, and dude, I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known you recorded with a $40 preamp because it is so pristine. It sounded amazing. Yeah, like I forget what the name of the song was I listened to. And that wail at the beginning, I was like, oh my gosh, it was just, Speaking of which, I mean, we're going to get to this again, but if people are watching right now and they do want to hear you like right now, where can they go to check out these bands, some songs?
Okay, well, they can go to, if they want to hear The Frame, they got theframeband.bandcamp.com, which is where we just launched. The CD is available. You can listen, you can buy, all that. There's a direct link right there to the Facebook profile. Now, for Liturgy of War is a lot easier to find. They've been around a lot longer. Any Google search Liturgy of War or the Liturgy of War just type Liturgy of War on Facebook. It's going to bring up the thing. Reverb Nation, same thing. Very easy to find Liturgy of War. So, and you can check it out. And, there's a song for everybody, really. We have a lot of different messages. Every one of my songs, I'm very proud with where I've written lyrically. I got a Christian song. I got typical rock songs, heartache songs. I'm like where I went. Back in the day when I first started doing music, I was writing all about one thing. And now I'm happy to say that I'm all over the place.
Totally understand. We were talking about this before we hopped into the actual interview because we know each other, we're buddies. And I said, hey, what about touring with these bands? Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's just, we'll be open and honest because I understand, but I want to know, even before this band, tell me, have you played out a lot? Have you toured? And why are you not touring with Liturgy of War and The Frame?
Well, the last time I was on stage was 2008, I believe, with a band called Facing Eviction. It was a local band of some friends that we had here. And we had a lot of unique material. We actually have been recently talking about resurrecting the project, which I really would like to do because I don't want to let that go. But these other bands were international. We're all kind of life kind of dictated the path we chose. Some of us are married, they don't have the flexibility. And I get that, As far as touring, I suppose if the variables are right, it could happen. But it would have to be enough to justify kind of severing ties with maybe a job a long-term job, things like that. So it's probably rough for. I'm not going to speak for all the people in the bands that I'm in, but I'm sure some of them might not want to sever ties like that to pursue that. But like I said, possibilities there if the revenue were there to make that happen. I would like to see a stage again, but I don't really want to do too much sacrifice to achieve that. It depends. I mean, it depends on the direction of life, and I love music. I love performing live.
Well, I mean, in today's age, we can record and put out albums and still be an amazing band. And I mean, it's the truth. People think there's so much money pouring in, and Jake E. Lee's new band, Red Dragon Cartel. Not talking about the singers swinging left and right, but when Greg Kaysen joined the band, the bass player who was with him in Badlands and left, I'm sure. Phenomenal. I'm sure he loves Jake, but it probably came down to a money issue. I mean, if you're not constantly touring, because it is a job, people don't get that. You have to make money with this. It is kind of hard to say, hey, I've been an insurance salesman for 10 years. I'm doing really well. You can't just walk away from something that's paying your house payments. So totally get it, but that shouldn't mean it should stop you from doing your thing. And apparently you're doing that. You're writing music, you're putting it out, people are enjoying it.
I'm in the studio just about every night, so I'm definitely busy. I'm very strict, very regimented, and it's a mindset. This is gonna sound very corny, but I tell anybody that comes up to me and they want to know about singing and all that, they might hear me and they want to know. I always direct them to you first off, because I'm not the coach.
Oh,
but
thank you.
I tell them straight up. I say, look, I don't care if you're a surgeon making $800,000 a year. I said, you're not a surgeon. You're a singer first who does surgeries on the side. You need to really, absolutely, and that's in the most extreme sense I can probably put it, prioritize singing as the absolute, because once you start doing that, the mindset dictates everything else. As we always spoke, singing is so mental. You need to be there with the mindset first.
No, absolutely, and people don't get that. And I even had this like, oh, well, I'm practicing your exercises. Should I be singing? I'm like, well, you're a singer. Let's be honest. Who wants to do vocal exercises? I mean, sure, they can be fun for a minute, and then you're bored out of your gourd. You want to be singing. So I don't like this philosophy. It's like, oh, well, you need to be training and doing all your vocal scales. Forget singing for 6 weeks. You have to be singing. You have to think of yourself as a singer, not a vocal exerciser, to get to that next level. With these bands you played out before on stage. Actually, this is kind of a two-parter question, because you struck something with me when you said I'm in the studio every night, which I think is phenomenal. Stage fright. And I've never approached this question like this, but stage fright can happen in the studio, even at home. So have you had stage fright on stage, and how did you deal with it? And when you first started recording, did you have like recording fright or stage fright in the studio?
Yeah, it's funny you mention that. My first show ever was, I think, 1 week after I had a lesson with Tony. And I was a little bit more confident vocally from the lesson, but my first night on stage, it was almost zero stage fright. I mean, I was looking everybody's in the eye as I was singing, and after that, sometimes I would have a night where it was really rough. The audience, you just get the impression the audience just isn't having you before you even get on stage. Maybe they don't even want it. They just came there to have drinks. They don't want to hear a loud band. And when you have less energy to feed off, it does kind of affect you. It can kind of erode your soul a little bit. You feel like, what am I doing here? They don't want to hear me. And it can encourage that response. But I did have my good share of stage fright, where it does affect the vocals a bit. If you don't lock down and use that energy correctly, you will lose control. I dealt with it the best I could. I feel I had more good nights than bad nights. And as far as in the studio goes, yes, it's weird. Once that red light goes on and I know I'm rolling, all of a sudden what I just did 2 minutes prior is, wait, why did I screw that up? I can do this an hour straight, but as soon as you hit that red light, I just have to get in the zone. Once I'm in the zone, I have the earphone on one ear. I can hear myself through the speaker. I can hear myself, well, not in the studio, the speaker of the earphone, and I can hear myself naturally.
That's how I do it.
And once I get in that zone and I'm into it, the red light means nothing. But it might take 20 minutes to just get there. So the first 20 minutes is sometimes a wash. Sometimes I'll be singing for an hour and a half on this song, and I'll be like, okay, now it's flowing. It's perfect.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's I'll go in and I've done this because I'm working out all these harmony parts of these songs, and I'll get pissed and I'll be like, oh my god, that was horrible. I'll walk in the other room, I'll go upstairs, get a drink, check on my dogs, and I'll sing the line. I'm like, wait a minute, oh my god, that's exactly how I want to do it. I run back downstairs, red light comes on, and but then if I start hammering because I'm like, same way with you. Within an hour, hour and a half, it's like, bam, okay, you just keep doing it over and over and over again. So you find it. And I think it is just a mindset thing. It was probably fine 15 takes ago, but as a singer, a critical singer, we listen to every little nuance. It could have been oh instead of oh. It could have been something so little that nobody else would notice it, but we do. So
If it's in key, it doesn't mean it's right. You might want to pronounce the word slightly differently.
yeah.
You could sing it in perfect pitch. It doesn't matter. It still sounds like crap. You're like, no, I have to redo this one.
So what is your warm-up routine like?
Warm-up routine is the 15-minute warm-up routine that you created years ago. I do that for probably 25, sometimes 30 minutes. Although some nights I'm a little more warmed up naturally. Maybe I only need 15 minutes. I usually 20 minutes, 25 anyway. It's so simple. I can reply back to emails and whatnot while I'm doing that. So it's not like a chore. I don't have to take any time out of my life. Then I go into my studio and I get on the keyboard and I do, like I said, like a tier 2 warm-up / workout where I go gradually up with sirens and things like that. And I start off for the first 2-3 minutes easily on the sirens. By the 5th minute, I'm just blasting out a full siren. Usually around up to F sharp 5. I mean, I can hit a G sharp 5 just about every night, and I've even screamed A5s, but haven't put one in a song yet. Just one of those.
Oh, you will.
I generally like to stay around F sharp 5. It's just a very comfortable area for me. So that's pretty much where I top out. But and that's it. I go once I'm done with that 5 minute to 5 to 10 minute at most, depending on the night, because I judge my voice. If I feel my voice is opening up and every note in my register is available to me effortlessly, I'll move on to singing. It might only take 3 minutes for that. Some nights I might need a little bit more of a warm up, but once that's done, boom, I'm singing.
So now you're to the point, because just for people who, I know a lot of people know who you are, but the sirens he's referring to is one of the isolation exercises from Raise Your Voice. In the beginning, I'm sure you did the falsetto slide, transcending tone to sirens. So now you're just basically doing the ultimate vocal warm-up, because if it's not broke, don't fix it. It's worked for years. And then your main thing is sirens, correct?
Sirens, yes. And sometimes I'll do a few minutes of transcending tone. Although it's been years and I haven't mastered the exercise entirely.
Who has? I hate that thing.
It really is frustrating. But you know what? I found that the transcending tone also relaxes me. I sometimes use it to cool down a little bit before going into the lip bubbles. It's very relaxing to go back to readjusting those muscles and everything in a very soothing way.
So how do you practice every day? I mean, do you have a strict routine, or what's your?
I have a strict routine. Yeah, like I said, I'm usually on 4 days on, 1 day off, 4 days on. I used to do 5 days at a time, but unfortunately, as I said, life just, I always have something come up, whether it's a home repair or something has to be done. And unfortunately, I can't seem to always get that 5th day in there. But I've been averaging out around 4 days on, 1 day off. And it's very consistent.
But that's still good. I mean, because if you're literally 4 days on, 1 day off, 4 days on, 1 day off, and that's your routine, that's fine. I mean, because look how you're doing. So in 9 days, you've done 8 days of work, which is more than a lot of people could say. So
that's true. It does take a lot of work. I mean, you can just tell as a singer, you go on vacation, don't sing for 8 or 10 days, and you come back, you can tell that, you're not quite ready to just start blasting out like usual. You can feel you need to take a couple days of gradually getting into it. So I try to stay very active with it. People ask me all the time what it takes, and I tell them it takes a lot of sacrifice. You have to be prepared to do the work. And you might have to make dietary changes. I have acid reflux, and let me tell you, it cut me out for a couple months, I was incapable of singing because I kept struggling and struggling with LPR. I mean, it was going right up to the vocal cords. I cut out 90% of dairy. I cut out a lot of meat. I only eat meat maybe twice a week now, and I would no longer needed prescription drugs. No longer. I weaned off their proton pump inhibitors, and I feel perfectly fine. And I even have coffee. And that's my big crutch. I love coffee. I can drink that and I don't even have any problems. You just got to know, you got to work with your body and make sacrifices. You can't go to parties. You can't, if you know you've got something, you need to prioritize your voice and say, well, I can't do this. I can't eat this kind of food anymore as much as I love it. Oh, these guys want me to stay out till 2 a.m. and then hit the diner at 2:30. Sorry guys, I can't hang out that late. I can't eat that late. A lot of sacrifices. People always ask me, and I'm like, well, you got to be prepared if you want to do it.
Well, so like you said, and you was honest about coffee, even in the book, and people, I've seen reviews like, oh, Jamie expects us to live like a monk. And that's not the case. I mean, everybody's different. Some people are fine with caffeine. For me, it's kind of rough. It really gets to me. Caffeine gets to me. Dairy doesn't bother me at all. My allergies are just out the door, like cutting my grass and weeding. Even like you said, if you miss a couple of days, and I kind of had a big weed job to do, and my guitarist and I are working up a bunch of songs like Jeff Buckley and Alter Bridge. I was singing this morning, and I was like, because we're doing, you laugh, but we're doing "Bring Me to Life" by Evanescence. And I want, so it sounds like female, but I was like, it's a little scratchy today. Okay, I haven't sang for 3 days. Plus, I weeded. So all these factors play in. But
allergies are killer. Allergies, pollen, they affect me big time. So I know exactly what you mean.
So, okay, so you got over the reflux, but is there anything specific you do to stay healthy? Do you take any herbs, vitamins?
Let's see. I used to take a lot of different supplements. I don't do too much of the supplements. I occasionally I'll follow up a meal with the DGL licorice. It's just a little tablet, little anti-reflux counter, little apple cider vinegar. Also, every now and then a swig of that. That's just good for a lot of stuff. A little lemon juice here and there. That's good for a lot of stuff. Saliva production, and also kidney stones and things like that. It's just good thing to have in the body. Things like that I do. I try to stick with mostly holistic stuff. I really don't want to be relying on any kind of prescription meds or antibiotics or any kind of stuff like that unless it's absolute, dire, need. But I do a lot of that. Water is pretty much the only thing I drink. Nothing else. No juices. Absolutely no soda. I don't really touch alcohol. Maybe a glass at a party once a year. I really don't touch the stuff.
Yeah, I'm the same way. But even the sugar, like in the sodas and stuff, it's just so inflammatory, and usually the first thing that get us inflamed is our vocal cords. So, we do have to watch that. I already know how you found out about me, so I don't need to ask. I'm looking at my questions here. But just really quick, a recap. What have you noticed? Because you said, hey, my top note, I do my sirens are up to an F#5. What has changed for you since you started studying my methods? Did your range increase, or could you always get to the F#5? You have more stamina. I mean, what was different with studying the method?
I might have been able to squeak an F#5 when I was younger, but by no means was it singing. And if I continued to do it, I probably would only have a 5-minute singing session that evening. That's how strenuous it was to do that. Before I really employed the methods, I would say a C was where I started to feel a lot of tension. That was pretty much where I couldn't really go any higher without risk of flipping into falsetto or losing the note entirely. Since I had employed all these techniques, I'd have to say that, I mean, I can't say it was an overnight thing, but it almost was. I went from that to F#5 relatively fast. I would say within 2 months, because I was sitting with the sirens and somehow it just clicked with me. It opened up and I figured out how to shift gears, you could say. And all that tension in the C, I figured out how to just get rid of it. And once that was gone, the notes after came even easier. I just figured out the shifting of gears. So yes, it absolutely, I'd have to say it was rapid. Initially, I did get range. I got much better control. I have to say this, stamina, my stamina went through the roof. I no longer had the stamina issues that I had then. So the stamina increased, control, uh, pitch. I know when I'm out. I know when I'm on. I know when I'm out. But I'd have to say that that improved too. But the biggest thing that I noticed that was very rapid was my range. The range definitely increased. I think I gained 5, 6 notes. I
Wow.
I don't have I don't have a piano in front of me. I can't really tell you, and I don't even know the notes. I had to put these little stickers on the piano to tell me what the notes are. But
Been
you know,
there.
the it was rapid, and every singer's different. I'm not going to say that maybe I clicked a little fast. I just, for me, the method worked, it clicked, and I noticed results fast. I think shortly after I had lessons with you, I was uploading videos to YouTube of me doing TNT,
Yep.
Everything the Star. I did some Westworld songs, and those are the ones that people started emailing me about. And I was incapable of doing those songs prior to having the lessons and doing these techniques. So that goes to show what can be done with some guidance.
We'll have to tease Tony. You went to Tony, and then you done some stuff with me, and then you was able to sing Tony's songs.
Well, I had always been singing since '99. I fell in love with Westworld.
Yeah, I remember singing "Tell No Tales" on the phone to Tony. Just I was being stupid and cocky. He's like, "Wow, is that in the same key that I did it in?" And I was like, "It's higher." You know, I'm sure it wasn't, but cool. So I want you to repeat for me, Ramon, because I really want people to track your bands down. I just want them to be able to find you so they can buy it on iTunes and everything. So could you please tell me again how they find each band?
Absolutely. TheFrameBand.bandcamp.com. That's the brand new project, The Frame. You can listen to the songs, buy the album, and direct link to the Facebook profile. And Liturgy of War, as I said, very easy to find. Liturgy of War, Reverb Nation, Liturgy of War right on Facebook. It's going to pull it up. There is a website. I don't have a link offhand for that. You can go to RamoneTalarico.com and also get links to my YouTube channel, see all the videos I've done, and the music as well.
Cool. So if somebody listens to these recordings and they email you, some new singers like, "Wow, Ramone, this isn't a push for me. I want you to come from your heart," and they say, "What can I do to become a better singer?" So it isn't like, "Oh, go to Jamie," but what advice would you give them to help them improve?
This is a great question, and I have answered similar questions like this very often. First things first, a lot of us singers, we have this kind of ego where we don't want to be shown. A guitar player can just learn and play on his own, but a singer, oh no, it's so personal to the heart. I'm not going to take lessons from somebody. I'm going to figure, no, let me tell you something. All of us singers, from time to time, we need a little nudge. We need a little push. We need some guidance here and there. Okay. And all the pros, they've got coaches on hand, right? They got people nudging them. You really got to humble yourself and say, hey, I have issues. I can't just do this alone. Have some lessons. Educate yourself a little bit more what's going on with the voice mechanically in your body. That's what I strongly recommend, because look, if I would have known what lessons would have done, I wouldn't have waited to the age of 27, 28 to do it. I would have been doing this when I was 17. I would have taken some lessons. And you don't even have to take lessons your whole life. It's not like you're going to be, paying $70,000 a year, but you just need some lessons to get you in that direction you need to be. I tell them, humble yourself, get rid of the ego, and be willing to just have a coach, hear you, analyze you, and tell you what you're doing wrong. If you can do that, it's definitely the first step.
What's funny is I love that you said you don't need lessons forever. And a lot of coaches probably hate me for this because, and I don't mean to disrespect anyone. I'm not saying any of my friends, but a lot of coaches in general
I know where
look at a student as their weekly paycheck. So I'm so, and you know this from taking lessons with me, I'm so 180% degrees opposite than that. I don't believe in that. I believe, let me give you a few lessons. You lock it in place. get off your lazy butt and you do the work. You don't need me to sit here with you and listen to you week after week after week. I've had students that do that. I have a student, a really great pop singer named Scott Isbell, and he said the other day, he's like, oh, I've been touring a lot and I wish I had more money come to lessons. I was like, Scott, why? You've had enough lessons with me. You're fine. You don't need to keep coming to me. And I've seen coaches get mad when their students like, oh my gosh, well they quit and now I don't have them for the next 6 months. It's crazy. You don't need that. Okay, maybe you need a personal trainer if you're getting six-pack abs to kind of to influence you and keep you going, but you don't need a personal vocal trainer. If you do, you can buy my app Tuned XD for iPad and iPhone. That's what that's for. But you don't need a vocal coach week after week. Just get the technique down, understand it, record your lessons with your vocal coach, and then take it off on your own and save your money. Put it into a microphone or a vocal effects processor.
Actually, you said that a long time ago that you want to get people on their way. You don't want them just constantly, And the thing is, you're always there. You make yourself available. If they train for a month or so with you, and you send them off on their way, if they wind up they want to learn something else, now they want to learn grit or growl, whatever, they can go back. They don't have to have this monthly fee, as you said. It's like I like your idea on that. You're right. A lot of coaches, I actually a couple coaches locally in my area, they want weekly students, and a week is, in my opinion, not long enough to analyze the data that the coach gave you. You really need more time with it to work with it, and then formulate your questions and go back.
Absolutely. And then, and I do understand that. I mean, I went to VIT out in Hollywood. I studied with Jim Gillette and Elizabeth Sabine, had a couple lessons with Thomas Appel, had a lesson with a choir teacher here. So I understand the need. And even like, not to pitch this, but that's why we created Venera Vocal Academy, and we made it so cheap per month, because it's like 25% of what you would spend on a lesson with me, or 20% actually for an in-person lesson. So that's something, and it's kind of laid out, but it's got a lot of stuff: music theory, tech talks, sync sessions. But with a private, one-on-one, if I show you the technique and say, no, okay, we'll try this again. Okay, no, when you're on your own, do it in front of a mirror. Make sure you're not doing this. And I tell you that, you don't need me to sit there again for 6 months and say, oh, hold on, you did it again. You've got to train yourself to do it, because it is a technique. It's like martial arts. Once you learn it, of course, you can get better, but, you want to learn that technique, that approach, and then you strengthen it on your own. You don't need me there every week to help you get by. Now, people will be like, well, he don't want any students. I just want to put myself out of a job, because there's so many of you. With you, we have. Go ahead.
You're always going to have students. There's always going to be somebody that wants to learn,
And absolutely, but even with you and I can't even remember. My memory's so bad the last time we've even sat on Skype or anything like that. But you don't need me. You're doing the warm-ups. You got the technique. You're in two amazing bands, and you're doing fine. So there you go. You're living proof.
And it has been a while. If I ever developed an issue, I can always just come right back to you. You're there, So,
but no issue. Don't spend the money. Buy a microphone. Well, Ramone, any last words before we end this spotlight?
I'm glad you had me on. I really appreciate it. And
sorry it took so long.
And because I don't see you too often through video. And thanks for taking the time out for me, and give me a little spotlight and allow me to promote the new projects and everything. Real appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm very, very proud of you. What you've done and what I've heard is simply amazing. You're definitely a professional, and you're doing an amazing job. So people check him out, Ramone Talarico, The Frame Band. Repeat them for me again.
theframeband.bandcamp.com, and Liturgy of War, search anywhere else.
Gotcha. All right, guys. Thanks for watching the Singer Spotlight, and we'll see you in our next Singer Spotlight. Peace.